Hey guys, so just before we start, we made an absolute goof and we didn't actually say our names at any point during the entire podcast. So this is going to be where we actually introduce ourselves. I'm Jack,
I'm Evan.
and this is the Video Game Timeline Show.
That would probably be a better thing to just have us saying, what do you think the better intro should be? Just like more casual, not until we're established do we need to be like, oh, welcome back to the Video Game Timeline Show.
I agree completely, but I do think that we need to have one that starts with, this is the Video Game Timeline Show. What is it? Let's find out.
I mean, yeah, people would have read the title. So it's the Video Game Timeline Show. We're gonna go from the beginning of all video game series to the present eventually in like 10 years' time. I don't even know what we're specifically doing. I guess the first episode is just going to be the very background, and then from this is like episode 0, right? And then episode 1 will be a specific game, and episode 2 will be a specific game as we go through time, right?
Yeah. So this first one will be just kind of everything before.
You can't name drop though, because that ruins episode 1.
Well, I'll just beep that out. Everything before what I just said, but I've beeped it out.
Yeah, you should absolutely do that.
So everything before that is what we'll be talking about today.
Because I actually learned something today. I learned a really cool thing about the games before beep.
Got it.
Or I can say it right. I can say and then it gets
I'll just beep it out. Yeah. And if you want to know what it is, they'll have to listen to the next episode.
If it gets that far.
If it gets, well, you will.
When it gets that far.
Oh, when it gets that far.
I was looking forward. I was thinking, what's going to happen in 20 years' time when we get to 2020, or well, at that point it'd be 2040. Are we gonna release an episode once when every new game comes out, and then the Video Game Timeline Show will just become a video game news show in 20 years' time?
What, you mean once we're caught up?
Yeah.
We'll do it on a day by day. But if we're still then, I'm sure that this is our full-time job.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If it's our full-time job, then what's going to happen when our business runs out because we've done the entire video game timeline?
No, you wouldn't. You just do daily.
You just start selling out rather than doing.
There is literally a game every day. Just go on Metacritic and see what launched.
Yeah,
today
but so the point of the beginning stuff is meant to be like, these were the important games that came out and telling the story of video games, right? Yeah. Eventually, we'll have to sell out and not be the important games and just be, oh, this is Viva Pinata 12. It came out on phone only and nobody cared about it, right?
Yeah, and we played it because we were paid to. Now you should play it too, and if you use our code VGTS, you get 20 gems and a secret pinata.
You're ruining the Viva Pinata episodes. You're going to have to cut all this anyway.
Yeah, you're right. So one thing I wanted to ask you, for everyone else, I suppose, because while we're talking about the start of all video games, we should probably also talk about our start in video games.
Oh, well, that's the disclaimer, isn't it? We did a massive disclaimer of, we're people that were born in the 90s, which means anybody born in the 80s will be like, what the hell? This is a well-known game. How can you not know that game?
Like, for example, my first video game was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. At least that's the first one Actually, I don't think it is, but it's the first one I remember.
I mean, this is the issue when we go to we're talking about the beginning video games of all time, and you start being like, well, it depends what you define as a video game. For us, for me, it depends what you count as the first game I played, because there's lots of things. I would have played Snake on a phone, right? Does that count?
Sure. But I mean, Snake probably wasn't the first thing you played.
I don't know if I know what my first game is I played. I remember playing Super Mario World. The school had a SNES for like after school club when I was 6 or whatever, and I remember playing Super Mario World. Does that count? I didn't have that. I played it with other school kids, and it wasn't.
Yeah, no, I would say that counts. It's really the first game that you remember that was good, because I probably did play games before that. But Super Mario World, Sonic 2 are both pretty good games.
I very distinctly remember a game called, I think, like Super Alice Day or something. Alice, I don't know. It was like a Toho type game where you fly forward with a ship and shoot things. I also remember that.
I don't know what that is, but then I also remember one of the first games I played was called Rainbow Islands, and I don't really remember myself, but I remember there being islands and rainbows. Well, they were really clouds and rainbows, and you jump between them. I'm not really sure what you did, but I do remember that being also one.
Right, so in 100 episodes, we'll have to play that.
Yeah,
or
probably.
Something.
We'll reminisce about Rainbow Islands when we get to it.
Well, I won't reminisce because I've never played it.
Yeah, fair. Okay. But you should have done by then. So yeah, okay. Well, then that's our disclaimer that we actually don't. Everything we're talking about up until Super Mario World and Sonic 2, we actually have not.
No idea why this came up. It was interesting reading through Wikipedia.
Yeah, I do have experience of them, obviously, from like arcades, like playing arcade hits and everything.
I mean, first episode, everybody knows the games because my experience reading through all of them is that they're all board games.
What do you mean?
So the first game, which you told me to read up on, where you said Bertie the Brain, right? And that's just tic-tac-toe. That's not a video game. That's a board game, but in electronic.
Yeah, that's true. And to be honest, the actual a little bit before that, so that was 1950. In 1948, Alan Turing and David Champernowne created a theoretical video game because computers just weren't complex enough to run it.
That's not a game if it's theoretical, right? Yes. Yeah, wait, but that's not like I can do the same thing now. I'm going to make a theoretical video game, right? I don't even have the ability to do that. Never mind.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it's just chess. I mean, they were just porting chess to PC.
But if it's theoretical, then it's
no.
Real,
in 1951, he tried to get it to run on a Ferranti Mark 1, which was just like one of those computers that's the size of a room. But he couldn't do it. And then he died. I mean, he didn't die immediately after he tried.
I'm going to try. I'm going to put my life into this and port chess to the PC.
It wasn't like that. But he did die, and he never got to see it. But when I was looking it up on Wikipedia and when I was reading about it, that is kind of regarded as the first known computer game to enter development, but not to be released.
Not to enter development, right. I was going to say, because I didn't write it down, but another game came out later that was chess, like 5 years or something later, that was only the first 2 turns. That's all they could compute.
Well, there was Bertie the Brain, which, like you said, is like just like a noughts and crosses tech demo.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't have screens; it was just like light up circles. Because all of these things are just like video games go back to the beginning of computers rather than necessarily the beginning of games. It's just
completely. I mean, exactly.
Tech demos. So if a tech demo came out today, when tech demos come out today, I don't consider those video games.
No.
I don't consider a tech demo of the latest Unreal Engine a video game. It's a tech demo. So why are these considered video games when they're also tech demos of what computers
I guess they're not. I mean, Bertie the Brain and OXO, which is the other one, which was the first one to use a video display, aren't really video games. But I feel like we have to talk about them purely because they are kind of like the
classics.
Yeah. Oh, they're such classics. Yeah. You're not a real gamer unless you've played Bertie the Brain and OXO.
You can't though, because they deconstructed them after the tech demo, so I can't play Bertie the Brain. There's only like 12 real gamers out there, and most of them are dead.
One of them's Alan Turing, and he never got to play. But yeah, I mean, both for Bertie the Brain and OXO, because they have no interactive moving graphics, people like historians debate whether they even are, like you said. So they don't really, they're not really that fun. They're just noughts and crosses. I mean, we've all played noughts and crosses.
I mean, that's not necessarily true. Most people have played it. It's rubbish. Terrible game.
Why?
2 out of 10. It's solved. There's like it. The worst game in existence is Snakes and Ladders because you don't play it. Things just happen. Tic-tac-toe is like the second to that in that I don't know the actual solution to tic-tac-toe, but it's like the player that goes first or whatever is guaranteed to either win or draw, assuming you just follow the correct strategy.
So okay, well this is a good. Maybe this is something that this is like a segment thing where we can create a ranked list of best games of all time, and
of every video game
at the moment
ever.
You've got Bertie the Brain and OXO ranked as the worst.
Well, I don't know OXO. I know Bertie the Brain is definitely a 2. There's also they also had Nimrod, which was Nim. I never heard of Nim until I found this, and then Nim is another game where it's solved. As long as you go second,
I don't
you
even
win.
know what Nim is. What is it?
I do not know enough. I played an online version of Nim, and it was terrible. It was like a board game thing again, because the things were set up so the computer went second, and it was just like, I bet you wonder why you're always losing. It's because you will always lose if you go first. It's like, that's rubbish.
Right.
Rubbish game. Why even spend the effort?
That is true. But I do we can actually talk about the first video game for entertainment purposes.
Well, I found Tennis for Two as being the first entertainment video. But this I've got written down as the first games were board games. And the second set of games they started releasing was Wii Sports. So I've got pool here, like snooker, 1954, and Tennis for Two, 1958. They're just porting sports into video games. It's just Wii Sports, the original Wii Sports.
I don't have Pool on my list.
Pool was apparently, unless I've imagined this, the first game that had moving graphics, not just you click a button, then it updates the picture, then you click a button, then it updates the picture, but it would move through time. So you hit the ball and the ball would animate.
Wow.
So they had Pool in 1954, unless I made that up.
It sounds cool, so we'll go with it. I mean, the history for Tennis for Two, I don't know if you read it, is really... So, you know, where he was, the guy, William Higginbotham, was reading a manual.
Is that actually the person's name? That sounds like the most British name.
No, they were American.
Oh, no.
And he was reading an instruction manual for a computer called the Donner Model 30, which was a computer just made only for the US government. And he found out that, just from reading the manual, that it could calculate missile trajectory, and then using that knowledge...
Oh, it can do tennis.
Why didn't he make like a missile game? Anyway, he went with tennis.
Tennis is fine. It's tennis for two as well.
Fair.
2 people.
Pretty good. And then he took it to the 1958 National Laboratory Annual Public Exhibition. Smash hit. But he is quoted as saying, high schoolers liked it best. You couldn't pull them away from it. So gamers don't change, I guess.
Yeah, that generation is still the most video game generation of all time, right?
But it was you can't play it anymore because they just dismantled it like they did everything else.
They also I was going through these. So did you see Mouse in the Maze or Mouse in a Maze? I thought this one was the concept of this was amazing. You get a pen and you draw a maze out, and then it gets like filled with cheese and biscuits or something, and then a virtual mouse is released into the maze and it sort of simulates it running around.
When you say you draw a maze, you mean you draw the maze on a computer? Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a pen where you do it with a pen, as in you have a physical pen that you touch on the screen.
Wait, so you're telling me that Tennis for Two was the original Wii Sports, and this mouse game was the original Nintendo DS?
Yeah, basically. But when I was looking through these things like Tennis for Two and Mouse and Maze, I was like, these sound pretty cool. I would mess around with, probably not play, but mess around with like Mouse and Maze on my phone. And then I Googled it, looked at some images, it's like, oh no, these look like garbage. These look like absolute garbage. It's like Tennis for Two is just a single green dot, right? And there's like a line going from left to right, and that's all it is. There's no little me.
No, I mean it's played on an oscilloscope, so it doesn't even like stay flat. Like the lines are curved. Everything's curved.
I would genuinely rather just play outside and play regular tennis.
The high schools of the time would not. They preferred to play.
Do you think
Tennis
they'll look back on like modern video games and think the same thing? Of like, how do people play these video games? These are terrible. That they don't have brain chips that are implanted in you and releasing dopamine or whatever when you win.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you very controversially don't like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, but that's not because it's old. That's because it's bad.
Yeah, but you say it's clunky.
Yeah, but I don't think that Super Mario is clunky. Okay, so maybe it's just like whether or not Tennis for Two does not age well. Is that a more accurate statement? Because some games do age well. I don't think Tennis for Two aged well.
Because I would say Tennis for Two does not age well, but one of the other things that we'll probably talk about, which is Space War, did age very well.
No, it didn't. Right, so that's the next game that is actually on the list, right? 1961, Space War, the first proper video game, right?
But before we do that...
Oh, okay.
Got a quiz for you.
Oh no. Am I supposed to make some sort of jingle? Like...
Yeah, sure. I'll just auto-tune that. That can be it.
No, I don't. Okay.
It was programmed on the DEC PDP-1 computer that MIT acquired.
You're going to ask me for the price because I've got it written down.
No, I've got all the specs.
Okay. Yeah.
So obviously, okay, so you know the cost.
Yeah, it was $120,000 in their time, which is about $1 million now.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Could you imagine wanting to play, yeah, Mum, can you please buy me this video game? I don't it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
What, Space War?
No, it would not. I mean, Space War was absolutely not worth it. I don't agree that it's aged well. I played an online Google version of Space War and it was garbage.
Well, it's just asteroids, proto-asteroids.
You play as like two little spaceships and you fly around and you can shoot the other one. And it does have. I did like that it's got. You don't fly around. You just increase your acceleration. So if you click. Well, for me it's W, but I'm guessing they didn't have a keyboard for it. You will continue, and you let go. You'll continue going in that direction, but it's terrible. I thought it was horrible. I did like the little thing of they maxed out the specs of the computer so much that they couldn't program any kind of bot to play against, so it has to be 2-player. There was no way that they could program a bot because they ran out of.
Well, that was sort of the whole point. The whole point was to kind of showcase the complete maximum capabilities of the computer at the time. So obviously, if you know that the cost, you also probably know how many units were shipped.
55.
I've got 53.
Oh, let's average it at 54 then.
Okay, fine. And I've actually written it down that I'm comparing. So just like how we compared the price of $120,000 to $1 million today, 53 units were shipped, and that's compared to the 112.3 million PS4s shipped on August 4th, 2020.
Well, I'd rather have a PDP-1.
I mean, there's only 3 left.
Is there actually?
Yeah, there's 3 left, and one of
Can
them.
you get them on eBay?
They're in. I think one of them's in like the Smithsonian, and it's constantly playing Space War.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but this is one of those things where it's like people that are around then will like it, right? Those 55 people will want to reminisce over that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like I went to Nintendo World in New York, and they have a Tetris. They have a Game Boy that survived. I think it's the Gulf War, and it's like completely mangled and like messed up, but it just plays Tetris.
Oh, the Gulf War, not the Gulf War, not
golfing.
Yeah, the Gulf War. Yeah,
with a U, yeah. And it just plays Tetris. So I guess it's a similar kind of thing, except that the PDP-1 isn't all kind of messed up. It didn't have a CPU.
But it didn't have a CPU.
No, it just had transistors, which managed.
This is like ye oldie style like computers, right? It's like, oh yeah, we got pipes and transistors.
The entire thing was done. All the data was done on punch tape.
I just don't like. Ye oldie computers really make me think it's just, oh, we got this rock and we made it think. I don't think that with modern computers.
Had a total. I think this seems a bit high, but from what I could see, it had a memory of 9.2 kilobytes.
Yeah, you can store like a text document on that, right?
I think it was like 4,000 words maximum.
Oh my god.
So yeah, the transistors, because it didn't have a CPU, managed 5 megahertz processing, which is 500 times slower than a modern smartphone.
That's actually a lot faster than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I know.
So if you strapped 500 of those, there was only 55 to be fair. So if you strap all 55 together, you've got what, like 1/10 of the.
Yeah, which is probably what, like an old Nokia.
You think that modern smartphones are only 10 times faster than a Nokia?
No,
They got to be more than that, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that if you strapped all 53 together, you could probably play Snake.
Oh, incredible.
So I don't know why they were messing around just making Space War when they could have spent,
Yeah, rather than had $1 million computer, they could have had one $55 million computer that could play Snake.
Yeah, it's way better. I mean, Snake is more fun than Space War.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay. So we're adding to going back to the ranking. You've got Bertie the Brain at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Then
I put Nimrod below Bertie the Brain.
Oh. So Nimrod is the worst game of all time.
I'm sure there are people out there that like Nim, but at the very least, Tic-Tac-Toe is a classic.
Okay, so we've got Nimrod, and then we've got Bertie the Brain, and any other like Tic-Tac-Toe style.
Any board game any rubbish board game. Yeah, I like board games, but rubbish board games.
And then we've got Space War, and then we've got Snake.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to do an entire ranking of every video game ever, but so far I'm happy with those 4.
I mean, if we did a ranking of every single one ever by like episode 30, it would be like the whole episode would just be, let's update our ranking.
Should this go between, the game that came out in 1983 or between the game that came out in 1985? Oh, I'm not sure. Ooh. Nah.
I mean, by the sounds of it, they're just being ranked at the moment.
The age of that they came out, yeah.
Exactly, they're just being ranked in time, which
That's absolutely not true though. That does stop at some point, I think.
Yeah, it does. And I do think that Space War is pretty cool for its time. No, I mean I wouldn't play like Space War over like Elite Dangerous. But the other thing is that at least it was finished.
As opposed to
all of the like controversy with No Man's Sky and stuff.
No, there's no way that you'd rather play Space War than launch day No Man's Sky. There's no
what
way.
I'm saying. I'm saying that at least wait, I don't have their names. There's 3 guys who made Space War, but those 3 guys.
Yeah, but there's not like They didn't have like day one. Oh, they did actually. They did have patches of it because it was all just 55 nerds programming it themselves, and they would update it. I was gonna say there's no day one patches, or there's no, but there are. There were.
They'd be like, "Hey guys, I thought that we could like make the ship 2% faster. Just gonna patch it in." Hey everyone, Jack here with a few quick messages. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to you for checking out the Video Game Timeline show. It's something both Evan and I have wanted to do for a really long time, and it's really exciting to share with all of you. Secondly, I want to say a huge thank you to Breakbeat Heartbeat for the use of music from her album You Were My Friend, for our outro, intro, and all the interludes. And lastly, it would be great if you came and joined us on our Discord, which is linked in the show notes, as well as checked out our Twitter, which is at TVGTLS. Give us a follow. It makes a huge difference, as does giving us a review and a rating on iTunes. That's the number one thing to get new podcasts off the ground, and it would just mean so much to us. Thank you so much, everyone, and here's to a long future with the Video Game Timeline show. Let's get back to it.
I think that ye oldie computer stuff is really cool. It seems a lot more, I don't know, optimistic technology, right?
I mean, it's really unbelievable. I mean, I was learning about QR codes the other day. I was watching a YouTube video where this guy made a video game in a QR code.
What?
So at the moment, obviously, when you think of like a QR code, you scan them. They usually take you to a link to a website. But the QR code itself actually contains something like 8 bytes of data.
Right. Okay. Which is wait. How much was the PDP-1's memory?
9.2 kilobytes was in the PDP, and 8 bytes.
Oh, and the QR code is just 8 bytes, right? Okay.
I think
right,
it's 8 bytes, yeah. And he basically made an executable within the QR code that played a very, very basic version of Snake.
No, that doesn't make any sense. If it's only 8 bytes, you can't fit Snake into that game, right? Into that memory.
Oh, it's actually a bit more than I said. It's not 8 bytes. That was ridiculous. It's 2,953.
So that's like 2 kilobytes, right? I mean, they're not quite 1,000, are they? They're like 1,024 or something.
Yeah, so it's just
1,000 kilo.
But that means that they could have made Snake, but they didn't. They made Space War.
Yeah, fools.
I guess they only had punch tape, which is part of the problem.
It really sounds just like okay, I'm gonna make a video game here with some paper and some metal. Like, it's really bringing it down to basics, isn't it? And glass.
I don't know how they did it back then, back in ye old computer days.
As opposed to now, where you do understand how computers work.
No, but nowadays, I guess most of it's done for you with game engines.
I guess. I don't know. Do you think AAA companies use things like that?
That's a huge chunk of it is Unreal Engine does loads of the work for you, and Unity as well does so much stuff. A lot of companies now have their own engines that they work with, like Bethesda uses their own engine for like Skyrim and Fallout and everything. That's why it was all the same, but they don't use paper. But I would like to see them try.
There's not allowed. If you are in a video game studio, you are banned from ever using paper. No sticky notes allowed.
If you're working in a video game development company right now, I challenge you to create a game using paper strips and little holes.
Do you think this is knowledge that has been lost to humanity?
Punching holes in paper to make computers?
Well, I know how to. Yeah, the second bit. I know how to punch holes in paper, but the second bit to make a computer.
Some industries might still use it, but it's definitely not used in the. But then the other thing is that there's just nothing that can run it. I mean, if I came round your house and I was like, "Here's my punch card. Can I put it in your PC?"
I have absolutely no idea how punch cards even work, though. I don't even understand. Like, are they renewable, or is it once you've used a punch card and you've punched the card, you need another punch card? I don't even know. I don't even know how the system works in its latest.
So each punch card is its own program.
Right. Okay. So it's a bit like those the musical instruments where you spin something and it ticks over little bumps.
So the punch cards are usually, well, in my knowledge, they're usually just like binary yes or no's, and that's why it's like 1 or 0. But In punch cards, it's punched or not punched.
Right, yeah, which is a 1 or 0, right?
I imagine, I'm not really sure, but I guess a bunch of connectors and a bunch of connections, and you place the punch card over the connections, and then the connectors will kind of run over it, and the connectors will only touch some of the connections because of the holes that have been punched, and then that's how it will know what to display. But I didn't do computer science.
No, do you think this is the sort of stuff they learn in computer science?
I don't know.
I would be upset that this would be the sort of thing that would be like, I don't want to spend money and time learning this. Unless you want to become a computer science historian, I guess.
I don't think that anyone is taught this anymore.
Ever.
I think it's something that you can go and learn yourself, and but I don't know what you'd use it on. Like I said, there's no I can't think of any computers that still, or at least computers that are not super enthusiast.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think it's going to be one of those things where, oh, what's your hobby? It's like, oh, I'm into punch card computations. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, my house is just an entire big punch card computer. It's like, oh, cool.
Well, the thing is, I thought for the ones before that, for like Bertie the Brain, Oxo, and the Churro Chess, those are all room-sized computers. But for Tennis for Two, like the Donna Model 30 and the PDP-1, aren't huge. I mean, they're bigger than but I think they could fit on a desk.
A big desk. I watched a video that had them playing the Mouse in a Maze, and that was like a big desk, and maybe it had more in the walls and the stuff as well. So it was at least desk size, at least. So are we going beyond Space War? Because do you know why Space War is really important?
Why is Space War really important?
Because it became the first commercial video game. This is the thing I said. This is the nice, lovely midpoint. Is that after Space War, and there was loads of different versions, and all of this has the disclaimer of this could all be nonsense. Is that they made a game called Galaxy Game in 1971, which was basically a Space War clone, essentially. And they were thinking, well, you can cram this on the new computer, which is only $4,000 in their time. And they were thinking maybe this will be commercially viable to have in like an arcade with like coin operated to compete with pinball machines and stuff like that. So they had Galaxy Game, and that never succeeded. But another team at the same time was making Computer Space, which was also a Space War clone.
Wait, and when you say this, so the original Space War team did not make Galaxy. What was it called?
I'm not sure. I didn't write that down.
No, that's fine. But so there's Space War, and then there's a clone called Galaxy Game, and then that didn't do very well, and then they made another clone.
But simultaneously was another clone called Computer Space.
Okay.
And Computer Space, I think that's what it was called, was really cool because they realized, well, we don't need your new $4,000 computer. We've got a better idea. We don't need a general purpose computer, because all we needed to do is run Computer Space in an arcade. So they had like custom made machines that were not general purpose computers. They were just Computer Space machines, and those were like a lot cheaper. The number I thought was like $100. They thought it could get down to. The quote on Wikipedia was $100 is what they thought it could be. It did not tell me, I don't think, how much it actually ended up being.
Right.
The order of magnitude is a lot cheaper, right? If you just make a Computer Space game.
I mean, it's just like how arcade games became.
Yeah. So this was sold to bars and arcades, but it didn't do very well because pinball machines were king, and pinball machines people liked more. But it was coin operated, and you had to pay money to play it.
Right.
So that's like a commercial video game.
That is. So what? So Computer Space is the first commercial video game.
I don't know if it's the first, but it's an early one at the very least. No. Wikipedia says it was the first commercially available video game. Yes, Computer Space was the first commercially available video game. 1971.
1971.
Yeah.
Basically, we had Tennis for Two in 1958, and then we jumped ahead 3 years to Space War, 1961, and then we had to wait another 10 years before they could...
Yeah, I think Space War was like a thing that they had, and people were messing around with it and making their versions of it. Because they had to get down, even the Galaxy Game was $4,000 for that computer versus $120,000 for the computer Space War was on. So yeah, 10 years seems about sensible, right?
Yeah, to get that price down. And probably to be able to have the kind of, I mean, if there's only 53 units shipped and they cost the equivalent of $1 million, it's going to be like on a need to own basis that you get one of these.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people were sat there going like, I need to play a video game where there's like 6 pixels, and I'm willing to spend £1 million for that, $1 million. Do you think this is why America won the Cold War?
Well, so because of Space War, they got to the moon first because they had practice.
Space War came out, what, 8 years before the moon came out? There's no moon in Space War.
There's a black hole.
Yeah, there's space and there's a war. Space War is essentially the same name as Star War.
Yeah, I mean, if they had called it Star Wars,
we'd have Space Wars as the film series. Star Wars is a really lame name now that I think about it.
Yeah, but for some reason, I really like the name Space War for Space War because it makes me think of exactly what it is.
But what about Computer Space is the name of the one that was commercially available? Computer Space. It's like, oh, it's too complicated, Space War. We need it more simple. Computer? It's on a computer and it's space. It's a space
the best
game.
thing about Space War is that it's Space War !
Yeah, that's pretty good. That makes it seem very, very hackery, programmy stuff, right? I mean, it's not 5P4C3W4R, like leet speak. Wikipedia, history of video game. We'll have to delete this Wikipedia article, by the way, afterwards, so that we're the unique source of this information. Shall we replace this video game timeline series with the history of computers? Something we know even less about.
Well, I'm learning a lot. But I guess it's kind of interesting to see that on these really old-timey, paper-driven blocks of metal, video games came from them.
Yeah. I mean, Search Up Light Pen. I think that's the future of... it's such a cool idea.
This is a audio-based medium, so you're going to have to tell people what it is.
It's like a pen. So imagine like a tablet pen. Like if you have like an iPad or something, you can write with a pen on the tablet. It was that, but 50 years ago. It was how you did mouse in Maze.
So you'd use it on a CRT display.
I'm assuming everything was a CRT back then, so yeah.
It allows the user to point to displayed objects or draw on the screen in a similar way to a touch screen, but with greater positional accuracy.
What? Greater accuracy?
Well, yeah, I guess because you've got a pen directly, like it's a pinpoint at the end.
But you can have that with modern...
I think they mean greater positional accuracy than, say, a keyboard or anything like that.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I was gonna say, why are we not all using CRTs? Why haven't I got a CRT on the go?
With your light pen. It does seem very kind of... It seems very kind of like Ridley Scott.
Yeah, Alien. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wonder, I'd like to think that in Alien, they're playing Space War.
Oh, did I not say that the most important fact about that? The people that made Computer Space went on to form Atari. Yeah, that was the most amazing fact. When I read that, I was like, what?
That is an amazing fact, that the guys who made Atari made Computer Space.
Yeah. I that was the reason I brought up Computer Space and I forgot to mention it. Yeah, I thought that was an amazing lead on to the future. Like, it's really connected. That flows so perfectly into the next episode. So maybe you can make it just like begin at this point.
Yeah. So we've got the guys who made Atari, made Computer Space, and then they made Pong.
No, you got to beep that out.
That's the last one though. That can be the one that they're like, that's what it was.
That's great. Yeah, do that. It's also possible I'm making things up.
So basically what we're saying is this podcast, which is meant to be a general chat through the timeline of video games, is probably going to be entirely incorrect and people should go and do their own research.
Whatever we say the opposite is more likely to be true.
Got it. So just come along for the goofs and the gaffs and maybe learn a thing or two along the way.